As the MLB season approaches, spring training comes to an end. For a majority of fans, they ignore the record that their team has during this exhibition period and look forward to the year to come. However, a question arose. Does a team's spring training record have an effect on the regular season and postseason success of that team? The answer is twofold. To begin, let's start with the stats that prove spring training does somewhat matter. Over the last 25 years, the time span in which I could find reliable spring training data, there are some trends of note. Looking at the most successful regular seasons over the last quarter century, 38 teams finished with over 100 wins, or were on pace for 100 wins in the 2020 shortened season. Among those 38, only three, or 7.89%, finished with a spring training winning percentage of under 45%. Looking at 2025, the teams that did not hit that mark include the Chicago White Sox, Cincinnati Reds, Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers, Los Angeles Angels, Miami Marlins, San Diego Padres, Seattle Mariners, and St. Louis Cardinals. These teams can still be successful, but they're just not on track to break any franchise wins records. Moving on to the ultimate goal of every team, among the 25 World Series winners since 2000, no team has lost more than 20 games in spring training, and only the 2022 Houston Astros won less than 11 spring training games. That Astros team was 8 and 5. This year, every team has won at least 11 games, and no team has lost more than 20 games. Looking at the winning percentages of those champions, no team had a winning percentage less than 36% in spring training, and only two had a winning percentage less than 43%. If you are a fan of a contending team, the mark of 43% is one to look at. And in 2025, the Chicago White Sox, Cincinnati Reds, Cleveland Guardians, Los Angeles Angels, Miami Marlins, San Diego Padres, and Seattle Mariners are the teams that did not reach that benchmark. A few of those teams were playoff teams last year and have hopes to make a deep run this year. Breaking it down even further, a team cannot win a ring without first making the playoffs. Among the 238 teams that made the playoffs since 2000, 14 teams, about 9.24%, finished at or below 37.5% winning percentage. This means for those who are fans of playoff contending teams, the winning percentage benchmark of 37.5% is the cutoff line. In 2025, only the Chicago White Sox and the Seattle Mariners did not hit that benchmark. For the White Sox, this is not surprising as they came off a season where they broke the record for most losses. But for the Seattle Mariners, a team that's looking to make it back to the postseason, this is not a great start. While the teams above are looking to be exceptions, teams that author turnaround between spring and fall, there are also trends that teams don't want to fall into and join the exclusive list. For the 512 teams that missed the playoffs over this 25-year-old period, only 34 or 6.64% finished with a winning percentage of 64% or better. If you're a fan of the San Francisco Giants or Toronto Blue Jays, both teams on the fringe of making the postseason last year, this bodes well for your chances of making the playoffs this year, as both teams finished with a winning percentage in spring training over 64%. Going even further, among the 34 teams that suffered 100 losses or more, or were on pace to suffer 100 losses in the 2020 shortened season, 10 teams, which is 20.83%, finished with a winning percentage above 55%. Nine teams, or 18.75%, had a 56% winning percentage or better, and only eight teams, 16.67%, were winning 57% or more of their spring training games. The teams in 2025 that had a winning percentage above 57% in spring training include the Chicago Cubs, Houston Astros, Kansas City Royals, Los Angeles Dodgers, San Francisco Giants, and Toronto Blue Jays. Additionally, the Boston Red Sox hit the 55% benchmark. History suggests that these teams will not suffer a drastic fall off and have terrible seasons. For all these trends, it does not mean it cannot happen. Each trend has at least a few exceptions. However, this also demonstrates to me that generally speaking, Performing well in spring training does help your team perform better in the regular season, and performing poorly gets your season off to a bad start. Now, looking at it overall, does spring training carry over to the regular season? In my opinion, no. A team's performance in the regular season is not correlated to their spring training performance. Looking at the stats, a team's performance in spring training does not foreshadow their regular season success, as there's little correlation between spring training winning percentage and regular season performance. Still, there are some indicators. Good teams usually win, and bad teams usually struggle, with extreme regular season success and regular season failure reflecting that. So, looking at the stats, spring training does not really matter, but there are some trends that help dictate whether a team does or does not make the playoffs or have great or terrible seasons. Thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video.